Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the fourth webinar in the Summit Series, and thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Pamela Steer. I'm the Chief Financial and Corporate Strategy Officer at Payments Canada. Today's discussion is all about managing through change, and hasn't there been a lot of that in the last few months? And the format will be slightly different as I get to participate for a change. Everybody else is having all the fun, and so I wanted to get a turn as well, and they have been fantastic. And so this topic is very near and dear to my heart. There are many questions to answer, and the pandemic situation has caused a lot of angst, and we're looking beyond that as well to what happens post-pandemic. How do we recruit in a virtual world? How do we groom the right talent now and beyond? And what does the future of work look like for the job force entering the market and for those who are leaving it? It's all very interesting stuff, and I'm looking forward to talking with my co-panelists for today. So let's start off by going around our virtual room as usual for introductions. And just a quick reminder, as always, that we will be taking audience questions. So please use the Q&A box on your screen and we'll answer as many as we can get to at the end. Welcome, everyone. So glad that you can be here. Mick, let's start off with you.
Thank you, Pamela. So my name is Mick Clancy. I am the head of HR for the Americas at Swift. And for those of you that don't know Swift, we're essentially a Belgian-based cooperative that facilitates about 10 years ago. I've had various different leadership roles throughout the world, managed people globally, and yeah, I'm excited to be here. So I'm currently based outside of Washington, D.C., so in the United States. And again, happy to be part of this amazing panel.
Well, we're delighted to welcome you with us. And today we also have with us John Cowan. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Pamela, and good morning, everyone. My name is John Cowan. I'm the Senior Vice President of Enterprise Payments at the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, normally known as CIBC, which is one of the top 5 banks in Canada. As part of that, for the people who follow payments, our institutional code is 010 and our Swift BIC code is CIBC CATT. My background is diverse. I come from Australia. I work for the largest bank in Australia, and I was in business, corporate, and institutional banking. I came to Canada, and since then at CIBC, I've run operations and also as the CIO for business, corporate, wealth management, and our subsidiaries in the Caribbean. And now I'm lucky enough to run payments for CIBC, which allows me to provide for our clients, pay money, receive money, transfer money, and report on money. So I'm really excited to be here today, Pamela, and thanks for the invite.
Thanks so much, John. And finally, our own Michaela McBean. Michaela?
Thanks, Pamela. Michaela, I am the Senior Director at Payments Canada, responsible for our people. And I suspect that the vast majority of folks on the line, our audience today, will appreciate Payments Canada's role in the ecosystem, operating high value and retail payment systems and the rules framework that govern that. So we have a fairly vast mandate, but from an organizational perspective, Payments Canada is relatively small, just over 200 people. We have offices in Toronto and Ottawa. Our talent is focused on everything payments, clearing and settlement, payments policy, regulatory payment operations. I've been in my role at Payments Canada for 2.5 years, but at the organization for over 20. So though my current role is really focused on people, my background and my experience is more in the operations of the payment system. And recently at Payments Canada, which is why this change panel is interesting to me, we've really spent the last few years modernizing and transforming as a company from brand, culture, people, structure. So in my current role, my past role, I've really had a bit of a front row seat to the change, both internally, organizationally, and to a certain extent within the industry. So I'm really looking forward to having a great dialogue today on change with my fellow panelists. Back to you, Pamela.
Thanks so much, Michaela. So let's kick off our discussion with this. We all know that we're in the middle of a pandemic, but let's try and set that aside for the moment and discuss what our biggest challenges are today and how we're each addressing them. Mick, let's start with you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, super. Actually, and even though we're in a pandemic, we haven't slowed down at all. So we're continuing to grow and trying to attract the right talent. And that's one of the challenges that we have. You know, years ago, we used to be able to target those that knew payments and products and those that were more IT related. And now with the speed of change, we have to find profiles that can do both. So, you know, it becomes more and more challenging because we're not the only ones looking for these profiles. So competition becomes a big element. So from the large corporations to the small fintechs, everybody wants these profiles. So what's been our solution to this is essentially we focused on agility. So we used to have very clear silos, you know, waterfall type methodology where there was a products team, you know, they'd pass the requirements on to IT. And at the end of the day, you know, what was delivered may not be what the customer wanted. So now we've kind of transformed our organization. We put all of these profiles together where there's, you know, these cross-functional teams focused on DevOps, continuous improvement. And it's led to much shorter delivery times. And honestly, it's something we're really proud of. So we've come a long way in a really short time frame, and it's helped us tremendously through this period. John, how about your organization?
So our organization is, like everyone with Payments Canada and the modernization of payments in Canada, talent is scarce. So we've really split it into three specific areas: buy, build, or partner. In the first leg, the buy side, we can go to the market and look for resumes and look for the right people to do different types of work. The way we work has changed as well, but we go to our consultants, we go to our vendors, we go to our partners and look for specific skills. Build has been the most important to me. Over the period of time, with the payments modernization having such a long horizon period of the different components, we've been able to look at specific schools and actually train payment talent. I'm very excited to say with schools like Schulich, Rotman, and some of the greatest schools in Canada available to us, we've been able to actually look at different diverse candidates from all sorts of backgrounds, from examples of doctors from Mexico, to people from Egypt, all doing MBAs and different things. And we've been able to actually train them to be experts in payments over the last 2 years. And I'm really excited to say that they've become absolute experts because payments are changing so much. And I'm really proud when we go from the buy side of talent, we're able to actually shadow people who are on the buy side to get more talent with the build side. And that means that we actually get talent around data, ISO, and what our clients actually like. And the final part is partner. We partner incredibly closely with our partners at Payments Canada, with our lawyers, with Interact, and with a lot of the partners in payments and Swift, obviously, because without our partnership and getting things delivered, agility and delivery of payments and new styles would never work. It's about one team now instead of just many teams. But again, building talent, not just for Canada, but for the globe in the future is one thing that I'm very proud of at CIBC. And we continue to move people internally as we can to actually further enhance payments within CIBC as well. So we'd like to keep them in our organization, but if they move external, that happens. I'd love to hear from Michaela. What do you think?
Thanks, John. And Pamela, that is a really good question. And if I put COVID aside and given my role focused on people, I would probably isolate two primary challenges, and it's not dissimilar from the other panelists. First, for Payments Canada, we are quite specialized in the skill set that we require. So there's not a huge excess of individual or talent with deep payment clearing and settlement knowledge in the market, even moderate level knowledge. In addition, we're relatively small, as I mentioned earlier, so we're less well known. We're not a household name. And unlike Swift, maybe Mick at Swift, we operate domestically only. So finding the right talent at the right time when you need it for what you need can present a challenge. The second thing, and again, with my people focus, retention is always top of mind. So once you've got your talent, keeping them, and once you've got them, you know, trained, integrated, developed, you've built their knowledge, it's retaining that talent within the organization. And it's particularly challenging at times for a small organization where we don't have, you know, thousands of employees or various roles coming up over the course of a year. So what are we doing about it? At Payments Canada, we pay really close attention to our company culture and the engagement. As I said, we went through fairly significant transformation, and it has resulted in quite a strong culture that really focuses on loyalty, flexibility, collaboration, and there's a sense of being unified behind a common purpose or the greater good for the payment system. So through developing that, we've been able to manage and maintain high engagement. That in some ways, in a large way, in fact, is really part of our value proposition at Payments Canada. Pamela, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, thanks, Michaela. And building on Michaela's points, I mean, we are small, but we're quite mighty. And despite the fact that we are a small organization, we interact with all of the large banks and many of the financial institutions right across Canada. So we have that benefit. You know, we're working with John's teams regularly in the ecosystem. We're working with all sorts of really interesting people and organizations that have different aspects of the payments community, and we really enjoy that, and our people enjoy that. Some of the challenges, though, of that are keeping them, and when they go, we want to make sure that we maintain good relations, and we're very fortunate that the employees who do leave us, they're well trained, they're well respected, they have deep knowledge in the subject matter area, and so we find them all over the globe, and they're our Payments Canada diaspora lives in South Africa, in Singapore, in Australia, in the Nordic countries. And so that is a really great, it's a challenge because when they leave, you don't want expensive talent that you've invested in to leave, but you do want them to go on good terms. And John, I think you referenced that as well. And building on the culture concept, you want to keep your teams engaged and interested and keep offering them new possibilities of learning. And with what's happening in the payments evolution, as things are really moving along rapidly, it's a great opportunity to be able to provide teams with continuous learning opportunities. So that's fantastic. And the culture pieces I was referencing and Michaela was talking about as well is really important, even more so now that we're finding the younger generation, those who are newer in their careers, are more than ever looking for something bigger than the service or the product that their organization provides. And so we call that our noble purpose, or payments meets purpose. But that fact actually is really helpful in both attracting new members to the team as well as keeping them, because they see what they're doing has an impact not just on our organization, not just on our ecosystem, but on the country, on our competitiveness, on our innovation. And we do our part to help the the country's economy stay strong. So I think that's a really important aspect where Payments Canada is challenged because of its size and its speciality, but we also have the benefit on the other side of being for the greater good. And the whole organization, along with us, or us as a big part of it, is about transformation and change that is good and necessary. But it is stressful on organizations and people, individuals, to change. And that is another one of the big challenges that we see in our industry. So we need to make sure that we help our teams keep resilient, keep learning, providing them the opportunities to get those skills that they need so that they can thrive and strive in the payments ecosystem, because there's so much opportunity within what's happening and all of the rapid changes that we're seeing, not just in Canada, but globally on the payment side. So super exciting to me. It is a little new that payments is hot but it is certainly now, and there's a lot of dynamic opportunities for us to collaborate, to work together, to learn, and to grow together. So that really clearly jazzes me quite a bit. Mick, I'm going to pass it over to you. As we said, we're changing things up, keeping it fresh. So Mick, I'm going to pass it to you now to ask the next question.
Yeah, super. And it's kind of amazing that we're all coming at this with similar challenges. And so one of the things we've touched on across the different organizations is really talent. And you're right, it is hot. It's a hot field to be in. It's quite awesome. But how do we change the perspective of, or attract people into the payments industry? How do we capitalize on the coolness and get somebody started in this career so that we can build more talented individuals for the ecosystem? John, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, thanks, Mick. And I think payments have always been cool. My background, as I said earlier, is that I was in investment banking. So, I like making money, and 25 to 35% of the revenue of all of the big banks actually comes from payments, transactional banking. It is cool, always has been, and been a major pillar of all the banks and actually all the financial institutions. That coupled with the largest project in Canadians' history around payments, be it both the Links project for large value and the real-time rail for low value, and the interoperability that will happen with these faster payment rails globally, leads for opportunities for all of our staff to start looking at payment innovation, starting to look at what's happening in other jurisdictions, looking at India, looking at what's happened in the UK, where they started in 2008. I'm so excited to be in Canada and in payments, because if you actually think about it, Canada's behind. We're being leapfrogged, and I don't like to lose. So the key for me is I want to make sure that we all move forward, and being part of a winning team and what we're doing with Payments Canada, Interact, SIA, and all of the different components. It's incredibly exciting. Then you look at all the opportunities that are available to our staff to look at what are we going to do with overlay services for opportunities for our clients, because clients always come first for our bank and for all banks. And we need to look at the services that our clients expect. They expect secure and safety in their payments. They expect new services and irrevocability of their payments. They want to use money where they want to use it. And during COVID, no time's been more pressing than now. Who wants to touch your point of sale terminal? Who wants to be able to transact in the way you want to transact? Who wants to do more e-commerce? And of course, with our large corporates and everyone else, they don't want to have to reconcile things. So when you think about it, payments is more now, because payments is actually cooler, because now we're using ISO data. And now we're going to start putting all of the data that will flow with payments. So now payments is payments plus data. And so now we have to have experts in all fields and all areas. And it's quite an exciting time, not just in Canada, but globally, because over the next 5 years, we get to build something that is going to lead the world. And I'm really excited about where we're going in Canada. I always reference to my team that, I once got to build one of the largest towers in Canada, in Sydney, the MLC Tower, for those that have been there. And I was an investment banker, and I got it to go watch it go up from the ground floor as it was built. I now actually get to watch Canada lead in payments. So it's incredibly exciting times for everyone to be part of, not just payments modernization, but payment innovation in Canada. Michaela, what do you think?
Well, I like your take that payments has always been cool, because what I often say, and Mick, to your question, I was in payments before it was cool. So I don't know if that makes me cool or not cool. And same for the rest of the panel. I think for me, what's really important to inspire that cool factor and entice is really sharing and emphasizing the incredible scope, the variety of avenues, the connections, the players within the payments industry. Not to mention, as John pointed out, we're on the cusp of massive transformation in terms of modernized payment system rollout. So what an opportunity to kind of get in at the ground level as that innovation is being inspired. And for those of us who have been in the payments industry, it's a bit second nature of the connections and who you're working with on a regular basis. For Payments Canada, for instance, sharing that, to be effective in your role, you're going to be connecting with large financial institutions, small financial institutions, fintechs, multiple stakeholders in the payment space, the central bank, the Department of Finance. So you're not just focused on learning more about Payments Canada, for instance, but you're broadening your knowledge of the ecosystem and broadening your connections. So I think that scope and that variety within the payment system is tremendously appealing, presents major opportunity and mobility as you grow within the payments industry. We do this in we share this message through our partnerships with Rotman and Beatty School of Business, through the payments business to payments program, which I would highly recommend to anyone, to really share the breadth of and the scope, the players, both nationally and internationally within the payments ecosystem. Of course, through our co-op programs, really dipping into that student network to inspire students in thinking about a career in payments. So these are some of the ways that we really not only share our understanding of the payments ecosystem, but get people thinking about the opportunity it presents and the variety of options and mobility that a career in payments can lend them. Over to you, Pamela.
Yeah, thanks, Michaela. And building off both of those, I think really it's finding the audience that we may want to attract and that may have an interest as well, first of all, in payments, and talking to them about what is payments. It's so much more than what we used to think of as getting cash out of an ATM or just writing a check, which, dear God, I hope most of us don't do that anymore and never again. But it's knowing the audience and showing them how vast payments are, showing them the opportunities of payments, showing them how much payments are evolving and advancing, and the opportunities and the interconnections, between Canada's largest businesses, the established, the big banks, the really innovative challenger banks, the credit union space, the Visa, MasterCard, Amex space, the new players in the paytechs and the fintechs, so the Amazon, PayPal's, Kohos of the world. And then, more broadly, as Michaela said, the government departments, the central bank, this is the nexus. Payments touches all of that. So there's the big traditional big business, as well as the funky, cool new stuff. What's happening in AI? How is that going to apply? What's happening? How can we use blockchain to apply to a payment scenario? So you can get a lot of really creative thinking and a lot of learning. So it's getting the audience, finding out who the audience is, where are they? We've referenced, John and Michaela have referenced the great schools that we can go to. Get them young, get them in, get them early, keep them. And then more experienced people who just have the skills that we want to capitalize on. So that's really exciting for me. Thinking about how things were, but where they're going. That's the exciting thing, and the transformation and being part of the creation of something new is what certainly jazzes me. And I know jazzes a lot of people that are looking for exciting ways to develop and learn and grow and be part of something bigger, frankly. And developing that audience theme even further, if you think about my background as an accountant, I'm the accountant that hates accounting, but my background as an accountant, I can talk to the world of treasurers, of CFOs, of accounting people, and get them excited about a new possibility as a career. If you think about the CPA just had their large national conference, and payments was never a thing there before. We had been trying as Payments Canada to have a voice there. And so this year, we had 3 different opportunities to talk to that audience about how cool payments is and what a modernized payment system looks like and what's happened in other jurisdictions, and how actually payments can also be part of a bigger digitization for corporate Canada and part of actually sustainability moving forward, and how Payments Canada, or how payments writ large as an area, can really have a part to play, a role to play in long-term sustainability of economies and business, and improvements and competitiveness and innovation. And so there are so many cool and exciting aspects of where the payment system is evolving. We just have to find that audience, find all of the audiences, find what really jazzes them and appeals to them, and do some education. And then I think we will attract a lot more and different skill sets into our industry, which I think is really quite exciting, as well as not just what's happening with the industry. So super exciting to me. Mick, I'd love to hear more about what's happening in the States internationally with SWIFT and what you're seeing and hearing. And we'd love to benefit from your experience too.
Yeah, absolutely. And first off, you guys are all cool in my books, that's for sure. And John, I love the retort. I mean, honestly, who doesn't like to make money? I mean, that's one way to attract people right into our industry. But for us, we focus a lot on our people, just like you all have mentioned previously. And we do have the luxury of being a global organization. And so that is quite a big selling point. So even though we're quite small, just under 4,000 people worldwide, we have that global element that we can pull from. And we've found that our employees become our biggest supporters. So within their communities, within their universities, within their, their peer networks and so forth, and many that have made the transition into SWIFT, then become vocal advocates for not only the industry, but for our organization, of course. And some of the approach that we take towards our employees, especially with the globalness of our organization, is essentially we trust them. Even before COVID, we had to rely heavily on flexibility and ensuring that we had a highly engaged workforce. There are times where, being headquartered in Brussels, we've had, you have calls that our colleagues in Malaysia or in the United States have to dial into. So you really need to ensure that our professionals understand the value and the purpose of why we're here, and it drives that engagement. We also invest in our employees. So myself in particular, if I joined SWIFT in IT security, now I'm in HR. So it's not even just you come in one path and that's the career that you're on. It's you grow, you develop, and you become more fungible to the in your skill set, and you're able to deliver more value for the organization, have a much greater impact, and of course for yourself, then you become a much more rounded employee. But working at that global level isn't always the most simplistic thing. So what we found that's been helping us a lot is we're really focusing on, and especially during this COVID time, the tools, the collaboration, the openness, and building those cohesive teams, creating that feeling that we need to deliver together for the community, for our customers, and towards our own strategic objectives. So again, it's nice to see how much aligned we are. Maybe for those that join that we're expecting a little bit more, different views of thoughts. Maybe we'll get it in the next questions, but we'll see. So speaking of the next questions, John, want to build on this?
Thanks, Mick. Absolutely. In the environment of COVID, how do you see us collaborating and keeping the environment alive? We've talked a lot of similar things here and a lot of different things, especially in our current situation, but also in the future. The days of all of the teams in the office from 9 to 5 days a week, I truly believe are behind us. Our workforce, like yours, Mick, are mobile and fluid. How do we keep this alive and the amazing collaboration going, especially with less and less face-to-face available, but it will come back? Michaela, what do you think?
That's not easy. And truly, I would say to maintain collaboration, there's no real silver bullet solution to keep the collaborative juices flowing, especially in our current fully remote world. I think there's probably a few things, though, that I would touch on as important. First, I would say that you need to provide the technology platform to facilitate the collaboration. So whether that's a Google platform like we use at Payments Canada or another connection platform, collaboration won't happen, or it won't happen as easy if your technology is cumbersome, unreliable, or not user-friendly. So that's a bit foundational for me. Second, it's not enough just to provide the platform. You have to encourage it. So you have to create opportunities for teams, for people to collaborate, share their work, share their challenges, shares their project goals with other teams as a way to really inspire the collaboration and the relationship building amongst teams. This is a great way to do it, and hopefully the outcome is creative solution making or innovation. The third thing that I would say on the collaborative front, especially, given our recent experience of being fully remote, plan and host events, social events that bring people together. So the key, whether it's coworker coffee, all staff social connections, the key here, you want to help people build new relationships that they wouldn't otherwise have, and mature existing relationships. And as the key really, it's on a different level. It doesn't always have to be business. And as these relationships really start to form, the collaboration, in my view, becomes more natural. It's less forced. And quite frankly, it's more fun, and it ends up being more productive. So those would be probably the top things I would point to. It's not easy, and it takes work and it takes effort. But those would be the things I would point to. Pamela, what would you say about this?
Yeah, well, we both, Michaela and I, come from the same environment at Payments Canada. And the notable thing with the pandemic is that there is no such thing as the water cooler conversation anymore, or just hopping by the cafeteria to see who else is getting a coffee, or just popping by someone's desk. And so it is a lot more formal, and that's no fun. You just have to force yourself. I mean, I find myself, it's more difficult to network while we're in this environment. If you don't know somebody, how do you reach out? And I think it is incumbent on us as leaders to make that effort, to do the discomfort, and to get out there and talk to people. And so to do that, being fluid and flexible, as we talk about, but also offer different channels, because different people respond to different channels better. So some people might like the Google Chat function. Some people might like the two-dimensional face-to-face that Zoom or Hangouts gives you. And we have to offer a lot of different channels for people to get involved. I know one thing that our teams did at Payments Canada that I enjoy, and I know many did as well, is creating different pages on our intranet site. So, Bill could talk about, this is what's happening this week in my team, or Elaine and Robin could share what their setup's like in pandemic working from home. Or we had Andrea, who had to manage with working at home with 5 children, homeschooling them, and what that really looked like. So offering those different opportunities for people to have touch points in different ways, I think is really important. And it's important to celebrate success. So make a point of celebrating when good things happen, and many good things have happened over the last few months. So celebrating those successes really fosters that positive collegial collaborative mindset. And then, taking the time, as I said, as leaders. So one example is every month I have a hangout with all the new staff that have joined, and just connect with them as an individual, and not really talk business, but hey, where do you come from? What do you like to do? What's your situation? And then that offers them, the new people, opportunity to meet other people outside their work stream or their work group, which is already probably set up. But meeting new people is difficult. So we need to facilitate that and foster that collaboration. And I think now more than ever, it's so important to continue that mentoring, mentee-mentor relationship inside and outside our organizations, to foster that network effect that can be so beneficial and positive as you bring new perspectives to your problem set, to your work environment, and help continue that growth and learning, which I think is really important, to make people feel included, make them feel welcome, make them feel part of a bigger team, part of the whole mission, rather than what can happen, and we have to be very mindful of. We don't want people to get isolated, and really feeling left out in the cold. We need to include and be really, really mindful and deliberate about including people. And I think, you know, as we get more senior or more leadership roles, we have to take those steps and make sure that people are not feeling left out, and that we are fostering that collaboration community, that culture that is so important to us to attract and retain and thrive with our teams and our mandates. So I think those are some of the things that are really top of mind for me at Payments Canada, and then just more broadly within industry. And Mick, again, I'd love to hear what you're seeing and thinking down there at Swift.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, the one thing I think I would maybe disagree a little bit in, and it's maybe just about changing the culture, is it doesn't have to be so formal. So this is the one time where, and again, coming from a global organization where we're spread across different offices, you don't always have the luxury of being able to bump into somebody at the coffee room. So as long as you create the culture that, you know, you can reach out to somebody, even if it's somebody you don't know, and that's acceptable. You know, again, for us, emails are a bit formal, but IM conversations or chat functions have a little bit of more of a, you know, less formality to it. So you see a lot more engagement in terms of chats, and then some of the work can get done there. And then if a meeting needs to get scheduled, a meeting gets scheduled. But I think to both of your points, I think it's so key to develop those human relationships. So from a team's perspective, getting to know your colleagues, welcoming new individuals into the organization, building on those connections, expanding those connections, all of that is key. With regards to work, again, we had a little bit of the luxury of having distributed teams anyway. So when we moved into this new way of working, what we did is we kind of stopped and took stock as to the teams that are performing the best. What are they doing? And how do we mimic that throughout the rest of the organization? And what we discovered quite quickly is that the teams that were successful, regardless of whether they were ever in the office together or completely distributed, were the ones that could collaborate amongst themselves. They were the most transparent with regards to work. You know, they had shared calendars. There was, you know, constant communication. So many of them were having daily huddles at the start of the day, or, you know, quick wrap-up meetings at the end of the day. And for their colleagues that weren't on their same schedule, they would have these chat boards where they could kind of have handover points, so that when you came online, you could see where all of the work was in terms of when that team called it a day and the next team started online. So this transparency of the work that's being done is so key. And honestly, for these teams, you know, they didn't even realize anything had changed, so to speak, except for the difference is now you're at home and your kids are in the background, and you know, you're not necessarily, you know, wearing the same attire each you know, your work attire. Now maybe it's more of your more casual attire. And so they continued to thrive. So for the teams that were used to relying on really the face-to-face, they had to pivot. And so you saw a little bit of a bump, but now I think they've grown. And so now there's a lot more empathy towards others that are working in remote areas. I think the organization has grown. They've become a lot more skilled in terms of fostering this collaboration. And I think it's something that's going to continue to accelerate us going forward. But again, we'll see. So John, I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Yeah, and thanks, Mick. And I'm sorry to everyone, I'm not in a three-piece suit today, as I normally would be on Bay Street. But notwithstanding, when we talk about this question, I think it's really important to be completely transparent with your team. Everyone is really different, and we have the introverts and the extroverts. And, you know, during COVID, it's interesting. The people who are introverts who don't really like meetings, you hear from them more. You're actually seeing more. So it's actually hearing different voices. And you have to be very self-aware to really care about people. At CIBC, and especially with my team, you know, we do have the families with young children back to school and all of the different things happening. So how do we make sure we have a break? How do we make sure we have a lunch break? How do we make sure that we allow our staff and members to do what they need to do? How do we not have meetings after 6 p.m.? Everyone has different environments. And so we have to think through what's the best way to get the work done effectively. I feel really lucky in Canada, as we do payments modernization. I came from the Sydney environment where I never had an office to start with, nor a desk. You just had to drop down in 2003. So I feel like COVID has actually pushed us forward, like payments modernization, to really start to work from different locations. My team have the right equipment to do their job. And we had it prior to COVID, we used Teams, but there's a lot of different opportunities to do that. And how do we socially connect? keep talking to people, be available, be the first leader who's willing to turn the camera on. I know some days when it's early in the morning, no one wants to turn that camera on, but you have to turn it on, and then other people join. Put a shark in the background, have a little fun with what we do. I'm glad some of these long meetings of 2 hours and 3 hours have gone away, because our productivity has actually increased. We're still having the chat, we're still caring about each other, we're still delivering effectively, and our productivity at CIBC is actually increased, not decreased. I'm glad not to sit in a room with 34 people, but again, you know, I'm not as comfortable with large crowds. I can present and do different things, but this is quite easy to present to a lot of people, where historically this might be uncomfortable for some of our staff members. So I think it's really important to be very respectful. Everyone is different. They all have different challenges. You know, Pamela spoke about one of her staff members with 5 children homeschooling. Can anyone here imagine trying to do that? All kudos to her and her husband, or whatever the circumstances is. I think it's really critical right now to keep in touch with people. Make sure you check in on each other. Make sure you talk to each other. I think looking after and making sure you want people to be successful. One of my traits as a leader is I'm aspirational for my team. I want them to be the best in payments. I want our team to be best. I want them to have great careers, not just in payments, but in banking. And if you actually take that forward and you care about your team, as I do, and you're loyal to them during this crisis, it pays back 1,000 times. And I'm incredibly lucky at CIBC to have, I believe, the best payments team in Canada. And as we go forward, I think the key for everyone is you've got to have a little fun. If you're not willing to actually put yourself out there and have some fun and celebrate, I think it really will never be the same, and you'll never bring the teams back together. I think the future of work will be more conferencing, where we come together as teams and work is done decentralized. I'm not sure, but hopefully we'll all see what happens in the next year and we overcome this crisis. But the great thing for Canada is we did modernization of offices in less than a year. Who would have thought we could have done this and changed the way everybody worked in such a short period of time? So I'm really excited for Canada, and I'm really excited for what's next. So I'll hand it over to Michaela now. I think we'll go to the next question.
Thanks, John. And what excellent commentary. And the fun piece, you're so right. You know, you've got to have fun. There's got to be lightness in order for people to be collaborative and actually work at their best. So based on, I'm fortunate enough now to have the last question before we pass it back over to Pamela. So my question for the group is, and we touched on it a little bit in the last question, but where do we go from here? What does the workplace of the future look like and feel like? I'd love to hear from you. And how about Pamela, you start us off on this one.
Well, Michaela, as you know, at Payments Canada, we're working on something called the workplace of the future for us. And what does that look like? I think John hit it right on the head when he talked about flexibility and fluidity continuing and bringing people's whole life circumstances to bear on what they need to do their tasks, to get it done. Yes, get the work done, but we're pretty flexible on how that happens. And then further to that, in order to maintain the culture and the cohesiveness of the team, what are we going to do for fun? What are we going to do socially? What are we going to do as a team building thing going forward? What are the things that we can do? How can we bring our people together so that they maintain that cohesiveness and that really great culture that we believe that we've built? And so those two things, the flexibility and the maintaining of the culture, I think are really the things that will define and help the workplace of the future thrive. So those are my two comments. Mick, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with those points specifically, as well as I think office time is going to become actually moments of collaboration, and it'll be, you know, critical moments. You know, as human beings, our memory only remember, you know, we remember those key critical aspects of, you know, our life. As you start looking backwards, you know, you remember your first day of work, your first day of school, you know, some of the major milestones in between. And the day-to-day, go to the office, you know, do the grind, do the work, they all start blurring together. I think now with technology, it's going to enable people to continue to work from home, to continue to leverage the you know, the flexibility, and the moments when we come together will become those key critical moments. There'll be the moments of innovation, there'll be the moments of collaboration, alignment, and then you'll break and go back and hopefully deliver amazing things, only to come back together and to solve the next challenge. And I think the companies that really embrace that mindset and take this as a moment to, you know, to move forward will be the ones that will flourish. And I trust all of us will be there as well. So, John, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, I think they're incredible point, Mick. I think we have one opportunity here that a lot of people don't talk a lot about, which is designing us for a sustainable future. And what does our carbon footprint look like? What does the different components look like as we move forward? I think a culture has to be built as well, which is inclusive, that includes everybody, and it's about trusting our people. It's not just about trusting, you know, the people with the loudest voices. If people are quiet, you've got to understand why. So I think as we move forward, what does the future of our workplace look like? I think we have to actually not think about just creating the teams right now due to COVID. What does 2030 look like? What does 2035 look like? How do you retain the people that you get now? Because now they have flexibility. How do we get the most productivity with flexibility in the workplaces? And how do we enshrine true collaboration that you spoke about, Mick? Because clearly, as we go forward, there has to be flexibility, there has to be inclusion, the sustainable future, and true collaboration. And without those things, I think we're missing a giant opportunity in Canada to really lead. And with payments modernization, changing payments, it's time to actually create the workplace of the future, but don't limit ourselves to just what's going to happen next week or this year. At the start of COVID, we all reacted. And we did things quickly. We rolled out networks. We got devices in the hand of people. We put in Teams. We put in Google. It's all first horizon. I think we really need to think about what's next and what does 2030 look like, and how do we continue in Canada to be a competitive environment for our people and for Canada itself as we move forward. And we have an incredible opportunity in payments. Michaela, what do you think?
Absolutely agree with all the comments so far. Crisis creates not only need for innovation, which it has, but also opportunity. And as Mick said, I think it's opportunities for organizations now and for the workforce to really change and shift. I would say for sure the flexibility, that's going to be expected. So people are going to expect that. I would say remote work has its challenges, but people are going to want to hang on to those inherent benefits that remote work has created for not just them, but for their households. So organizations are really, and I would agree, we need to harness that, and organizations need to be ready for that, need to adapt to it, and need to look at it as an opportunity. The second thing I would say is, and I feel quite strongly about, and I think others have hinted to, remote, in my view, doesn't mean complete detachment from the office. So there needs to be, and we need to start thinking about what are those quality in-person interactions that we need to continue. So we need to really start thinking about that because it's not out of sight, out of mind, certainly. And then lastly, I think, leadership in a remote environment is different. So whether we're 100% remote or 50% remote, we need to start thinking about how do we build the capability of our leaders, all of our leaders, those that aren't familiar with a remote environment, to be effective remote leaders. It's not always intuitive. It's not always easy. It takes a different skill set. It takes, as John said, everyone's different. Everyone needs, reacts in different ways. Some people are good on screen. Some people are better through chat. So it really takes some diligent thinking and training and thoughtfulness to build the capability of our leaders for this remote environment, for really ultimately the betterment of our workforce and our people. So Pamela, with that, I will pass it back to you.
Well, thanks so much, Michaela, and thank you everyone, my co-panelists today, and thank you for allowing me to participate. It's fantastic. For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to go back to my typical moderator role, and for this next part, we are now at your questions. So I appreciate that you have provided some questions, some really good ones, and this is actually the fun part for me, because then I get to zap our panelists and see if they're sharp on their toes. So thank you very much to the audience for the questions, and keep them coming, because this is a great conversation for us. So first question is, once a payments person is in the payments field, how do you help them continue to grow their payments education and understanding to ensure that they are prepared for modernization of payments in Canada and around the world? And John, I'm going to throw this one to you first.
Yeah, thanks, Pamela. It is a great question, and I think it's about continued education. It's about talking about the opportunities in whichever field that the participants are working in. As I said in my earlier comments, it's much more than just payments now. It's large value payments, it's low value payments, it's cross-border payments, it's ISO, it's data, it's fraud, it's cybersecurity. I think payments is incredible now, because the whole field of where we have to play in and have to understand isn't just about payments anymore. You have to understand transactional banking. You have to understand what the corporate clients will do, small business clients, requests to pay. I'm excited because it's all about continuous education and continuing to give people opportunities in payments innovation, and also operating systems in a way that's incredible. So with that, Pamela, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks so much, John. That's a great one. I knew that was going to the right place. Hopefully I can pick them for the rest of the questions. So question number 2, recruitment has changed from the tradition of people knocking on your door for a job and people hunting for a job. And now it's gone to organizations really selling themselves to the potential candidate. What do you do to attract talent? Michaela, I'll start with you, and hopefully we can get a couple of answers in.
Yeah, I think what's important there is, and actually was always important, but probably more so now, is really keeping up your external network. So as an organization, we need to keep a hand on the pulse of external talent and connections in the industry. We rely heavily on that. And as I said earlier, finding talent when it's a specialized need is not always easy. But if you keep your external networks, organizational networks, as well as people networks, hot and alive, it's much easier. You hit the ground running when you need that talent. So that's one part. And then there's also, you know, your external, your live profile, right? And so it's sharing information about your organization. And not only that, avenues like this to share about what the payments industry is, what your organization does, the opportunities. We've had great success with our co-op programs, talking to various graduate school, undergraduate students to promote payments. And it's actually reaped benefits for us as an organization. We inspire people to join the world of payments. So I think in the remote world, you've got to tap into all of those sources, and you've got to be continually sharing your message in order to interest your potential candidates.
Yeah, thanks, Michaela. And I would add just quickly to that, you know, having thought leadership in other ways gets you into new audiences as well, not just the payments industry. And so having more general thought leadership, but leaders from the organization, people start to say, oh, she or he's from Payments Canada. Oh, what's that all about? And that creates some interest and some buzz as well. Mick, I think you were about
Indeed,
to
yeah, I wanted to add to that, because
Sure.
I agree. All of that is so key, but it's also educating your organization that once you get that candidate, you know, interest in the job, that you have to continue that sell all the way through. So I think historically we've had hiring managers that look at it, you know, what can you give to me? Are you going to meet all of the requirements that I have in my job description? And they forget at a certain point in time that they also need to sell what is the purpose, what is the value. They need to reconfirm all of those messages that have been, you know, put out by HR and others in terms of the communication, the branding, and show that the role that they have is one that they're going to grow in. They're going to feel, you know, at the end of the day, it's bringing a sense of value and purpose. And then ultimately, you know, it's not, you need to have that mindset all the way through, because it is a mutual, you know, commitment. You know, as much as you want the candidate and you want the skills and the value they bring, you need to show to them as well that this is going to be a good choice, because they do have options. So, you know, it's not sealed until it's totally sealed. So
Thanks for that. So third question, and Mick, I'm going to throw it back to you first, but I'd like to hear from all of our panelists. Is there a payments talent shortage worldwide? Mick, what do you think?
I think so. At least that's definitely the feedback we're getting from our hiring managers. And again, it's I think as John mentioned before, it is such a vast you know, realm of knowledge in different areas that, you know, if you're looking for that candidate that has everything across the board, then you're really limiting your supply. So, you know, you have to have that mindset when you're bringing in somebody that you do need to upskill in certain areas. So look for some fit and maybe not the full fit. And again, it's definitely a war for talent these days. So you also don't have the time to, you know, take very slow decisions and go through 15 interviews in a very methodical way. But I have faith that, again, I think, especially now that the coolness of the industry is going, you know, going back to John's point, who doesn't like to make money or be in the money business? I'm hoping that there'll be more and more applicants that come our way.
Fantastic. John, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm going to be a little controversial. I don't think there's a shortage of talent at all. And I'll tell you why. For the history of banking and finance, all the way back to, you know, when gold bars were changed around in China for paper money, we've all got to do the same thing. You have to pay money, receive money, transfer money, and report on money. We might make it sound more exciting now, and it's cool because there's large projects going on, but it's about diversity and inclusion. It's about finding the right candidates who want to learn in any field. There's so many talented people that are available. I agree with Mick wholeheartedly. The number one thing you have to do is, if you're a traditional bank, stop the panel interviews, stop the going through, find the right candidates, take a little more risk like our PSPs and the other participants that are out there. Hire the smartest people you can that aren't like yourself. I think it's really important to continue to do that, Pamela. At CIBC, I can tell you, you build a brand, and you build a brand around our franchises having the best payments team in Canada, which I have. And by that, I get a lot of opportunities to hire the smartest people. And so I feel very lucky that by building out a great franchise and building out payments as an important part, and the cool factor, we're able to hire whoever we like. And we also don't just chase after innovation or new people who are new to the payments industry. We also care about everyone at other banks and other industry participants who are experienced, and we look at those as well. So there's an unlimited pipeline for us. And I think it's incredible in Canada that we continue to build more and more talent around payments. Michaela?
Yeah, so I'm somewhere in the middle of both of your responses. So I would say that the demand for talent is way higher than it was historically. So we're finding the talent, and it's not always easy, but the demand is so high, the industry is so cool, as we say, and it's so vast, and the opportunities are quite expansive, that the demand is high, we're getting the talent, but your talent is mobile. So you're losing your talent more frequently than traditionally in the past. So I think that really is the challenge. It perhaps is not that the talent there's a real shortage, but man, there's opportunity for these people. So if you want a new career, payments is it, because you don't have to be focused on one avenue. There's multiple avenues for you once you start making connections. So I would say it's because it's cool now, it's hanging on to that talent, which is the bigger problem, less about getting them. So I'm in the middle.
Thanks, Michaela. So I think that is a great last word to end on for our questions. Thank you so much to those who provided them. I've really enjoyed this, especially since I got to participate instead of just directing traffic. So thank you very much for indulging me in that. I really enjoyed our conversation today. It was quite aligned, but varied nonetheless. And so it was great to hear all your perspectives, from Little Payments Canada, who's the big, small but mighty, to the international of Mick at Swift and John at CIBC. So thank you all very much for participating today. And thank you to everyone in our audience for tuning in. We really hope that you found this session engaging, as I certainly did. And we'll send everyone who registered a link to the recording of the session later this week. And please feel free to share it around and talk to your colleagues and friends about the wonderful world of payments and payment talent. Our next topic is consumer-directed finance, or for those of us who like open banking better as a phrase, on October 20th. Join me for this very timely discussion with Tracy Lagasse, who is an innovation expert at Microsoft, Vopay's CEO Hamed Arbabi, and our very own Ann Butler, who is our Chief Legal Counselor and Head of Research at Payments Canada. What could the future of open banking look like in Canada? Tune in to find out. You can register, as always, on our website at thesummit.ca. So thank you again, everyone, for your time and your interest. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Thanks, everyone.